What is going on, YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey Live. It's Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at some breaking news, not so breaking news, but breaking news in the hockey world. We're in the preseason now. There's some drama for some younger players that are restricted free agents that have yet to sign their contracts. That's no longer the case, as we have one less player on the board. Trevor Zegras, the Anaheim Ducks future superstar, signs a 3-year contract with the Ducks. We're going to take a look at that today. We're going to look at some other little things here and there in today's video. So, first off, we have to talk about the news. It's a 3-year deal for Trevor Zegras to keep him in Anaheim. $17.25 million over the next 3 seasons. You do the math on that, that's $5.75 million per year on the annual contract. So, looking at this deal, overall, it's a really nice contract for Trevor Zegras, and it's a nice contract for the Ducks. Now, we remember the contract numbers we were hearing last week. It sounds like Pat Verbeek and Trevor Zegras and their, and his camp decided to finally sit down and say, listen, we got to figure this out, because this is not something that is sustainable. We can't rely on some of the issues here that we're going to have. And this is too important of a player to not have in your lineup. And, without Trevor Zegras in the lineup, it puts guys behind him in a role that they're probably not suited for. So, for example, Trevor Zegras is your first line center. Well, with him not there, that puts Mason McTavish on your first line, Leo Carlsson as your second line center, and then you'd have to find a way to move the lineup where maybe you would have Leo Carlsson stay on the third line. Mason McTavish is your first line center, and then either Ryan Strome, Troy Terry, or Adam Henrique become your second line center. And that's where there's that's a pretty gaping hole with Zegras not there. So when I look at the Anaheim Ducks here, this is a move they absolutely had to make. And signing him to a 3-year deal, you're seeing here in the corner of the video for you guys, some comparable contracts. And that's something I really want to look at, because we're seeing in a very short amount of time how the market is changing already so quickly in the NHL in terms of these bridge contracts that we're seeing. The number continues to go up and up and up. And that's a great thing for hockey players, because they're going to be making more money. And based off the numbers you guys see here, it's pretty substantial. And maybe not in the sense of overall, per year, it's $1 million. But over a 3-5 year contract, it's substantial money here. And I think this is great for Zegras, because he's got his deal done. Now he knows he's going to be playing opening night, and that just mental side of things is done. And now he could get back into the preseason, kind of get the swing of things going, get on the ice with the Ducks, and really get things going. And he is a little step behind, so he's going to have to catch up. Not that big of a deal, but it is something to consider here. And also the fact that with a guy like Zegras, again, that's probably good for the team overall, right? Morale. All right, we finally got this guy locked up. One less distraction that we have on our plate. So for the Anaheim Ducks, this is huge for them. They needed to find a way to get him locked up, and they did that. And it didn't involve a trade or any BS. They were able to lock up their guy and keep him on board. Thank you so much to a couple of you guys in here watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the stream. I'm going to try and do this more often when I can. What's up, Toe? I wanted to see Zegras get an offer sheet. That was not the case, unfortunately, Toe. But thank you for joining us, and to the other people in here. You guys are awesome. So anyway, looking at this signing, like I said, it's a great signing overall, and you compare that now to the other numbers around the league over the last couple years. So Anthony Cirelli signed a deal a couple years back, and it's kind of interesting to see how that deal has kind of changed the look of some of these other contracts around the league. So this deal was signed back in 2020. It was from 2020 to 2023. So within a very short amount of time, since 2020, 3 years later, this is and this is from Cap Friendly, this is the most comparable contract, the most similar contract we've seen for a similar player of the same production and the same type of deal. So, like I said, December 24th, so Christmas Eve of 2020, Anthony Cirelli signed a 3-year deal at 22 years old, from 2020 to 2023 at $4.8 million per season. So you look at the jump here, 3-year deal, right? Same exact duration, 3-year deal, very similar in terms of point production and age between Cirelli and Zegras at the time, and $1 million more per season for Trevor Zegras. So that's going to be over 3 years. That's another $3 million, which is almost the equivalent of a 4th year on that contract of Cirelli's on Zegras' deal here. So this is really, really good to see. Like I said, it's a 3-year deal. Another couple of contracts I've kind of had in my head. I remember when Barzal signed a contract with the Islanders a couple years ago. It was very similar, because the Islanders were, again, in a similar situation where they didn't have the money necessarily to bring Barzal in on an 8-year deal at the time. It's a little different here with Zegras, which is kind of weird, but we'll get to that later. But as of right now, this is a great contract overall for Zegras right now. And again, this could also be Zegras' side saying, listen, I only want to sign a 3-year deal, because when the next CBA deal is up, I want to cash in 3 years when I could be possibly a free agent. If the Ducks aren't good in 3 years and I could really get the most value out of my contract in the prime of my career, I can cash in again in 3 years when the market goes up. So this is for some reason, I think Pat Verbeek and the Ducks, really, they should have tried to lock him up to an 8-year deal. But again, this could have been Zegras' camp saying, listen, we are not taking anything more than 3 years. It's a 3-year deal, and that's it. That's all we're doing here. So that's kind of the good news is they have him for 3 more years. The bad news is he's going to be way more expensive than that 5.75 in 3 years from now. And I can almost guarantee it. With how good Trevor Zegras is, he is going to be very expensive for Anaheim in 3 years' time. But that's okay, because it is what it is. That's just how this works, right? Again, the players have a lot more liberation today, and I think that his camp had a lot of say in this. Now, the issue with that for Zegras is, in 3 years from now, when he gets that big ticket, that's going to be less money for the Ducks to spend on other players that he could have gotten that money in an 8-year deal with the Ducks, starting now up until the next 8 years, but now that's going to be less money for the Ducks to spend when they're a contender. And again, that's not Zegras' problem, but that is going to be a problem if he's not making the playoffs or the Ducks don't have enough depth on their roster in a few years' time. Well, that's something that you can kind of blame on Trevor Zegras when that time comes. Another comparable contract, a 2-year deal, $5 million AAV. Again, it's not a great comparable, but in terms of production and age, Pierre-Luc Dubois' deal he signed with Winnipeg a couple years back, very, very similar to that. And the one that I think, honestly, I mean, it's, in terms of contract-wise, very comparable. The Elias Pettersson contract, a 3-year deal, $7.35. Again, you understand the connection there. Very easy comparisons there. This is a guy that the Vancouver Canucks had to lock down, and they had a little bit of money to spend, and that's part of the reason they did that number. But PD got paid a lot of money, and we're going to see on his next deal when things turn around. I'm sure Elias Pettersson's contract will be a comparable in 3 years' time from now. For whatever Pettersson gets on his next contract with Vancouver, Trevor Zegras is going to get something similar when he is up in Anaheim. So that is kind of what we're looking at here. Can't stay long here, unfortunately. Driving to my friend's house to play NHL 24 for the first time. Well, that's awesome. And here he is. We've got Toe in the chat. We've got Ali Desh in the chat. What's going on, guys? It's nice to see you guys. How is the audio? Should I move the mic a little further away? Let me know down below if the stream is good. The only thing I'm annoyed about, I don't have the stream, the chat on the screen for you guys. That's something I'm going to have to fix up. But let me know what you guys think of this little template here, if you like it or not. When there's breaking news and stuff like that, I am going to try and do things like this, just to change up, you know, kind of how we do things. And there it is. Yo! We have a super chat from Ali Desh, $2.79 Canadian. Kevin Forte, next GM of the New York Islanders. Audio is great, very loud. Okay, so maybe I have to lower it a little bit. Let me know if this is a little bit better. How is that, Ali? Hopefully that's a little bit better. Okay. All right, so I'm going to leave the chat for a second. Like I said, I don't have it up on my screen with me. So anyway, like I said, this could be something that comes back to bite the Ducks in a couple years from now when they try to re-sign him. But again, that's the chance you're taking with a guy like Trevor Zegras. That's sometimes what you have to do here. And like I said, I think the Pettersson example is a really good one in terms of it could have been more expensive here for the Ducks. So in the sense that, yeah, it's 5.75. That's a pretty good deal, honestly, especially compared to what Pettersson got with Vancouver. So, again, it's more about the duration for me. That's what I'm more concerned about here if I'm a Ducks fan. Because, again, in 3 years from now, when that money's going to be a little bit tighter, they're going to have to sign McTavish at some point, Leo Carlsson, and Trevor Zegras on his big ticket. Things are going to get really expensive for the Ducks really quick. And Jamie Drysdale, don't forget about him. He's still an RFA. Hopefully things will get worked out now, especially now that Zegras is figured out. But the Ducks do have a little over $11 million in cap space to figure out what they want to do with Jamie Drysdale. What else did I want to mention? I think that was it. Like I said, really the key thing that you have to look at here is this is the depth that the Ducks needed with Zegras back, because that's your first line center. He's projected, according to Daily Faceoff, to play alongside Adam Henrique and Troy Terry, which I absolutely love. I really like Troy Terry. I was always a fan of Adam Henrique. Not so much when he was with the Devils, scoring goals against the Islanders back in the day, but a really good player and a good dude overall. So I always like those guys. I always cheer those guys on. We expect Leo Carlsson to be in the lineup. Again, he might get sent down to San Diego. We're not really sure how Pat Verbeek is going to do that. Is he going to do the Yzerman approach? You know, his predecessor kind of saying, you know, you got to really work for it and you'll get the ice time when it's there. Or, well, we don't have enough depth, so you're in the lineup. I hope that's not the case. I don't think that's the case. But, again, with a guy like Leo Carlsson, that's a guy you have to really watch for, especially right now in the preseason, to see how he does, to see if he can get one of those spots out of camp. And at this point, I think he will, especially with, again, the lack of veterans and options for the Ducks. It seems like Leo Carlsson's spot to lose there on the third line. And that is the future of your lineup here for the Ducks, because that is it. That's Zegras, McTavish, and Carlsson. That could be a really, really, really solid 1-2-3. And the way I'm kind of expecting things to go for the Ducks, it's going to be a slow season. It's going to be a tough season to watch as a Ducks fan, especially for me on the East Coast. Those are 10 o'clock starts every night on the East Coast for me. But this is worth watching because there is so many young players that I want to see playing for the Ducks. And, we saw McTavish last year. Looked really solid. I expect something similar here from Leo Carlsson. He's just that good. And, there's a reason you get picked in the top 3. Actually, second overall. There's a reason the Ducks picked him number 2 overall. And I think we're going to see some of that here early on this year. Maybe there's a sense of maybe like a little bit of a lack of maturity and things like that. But those are all things that I think will kind of round into form for him. Do you guys have anything else you would like to talk about? Now it's more level. Okay. Um, yeah, let me know what you guys want to talk about before we close out here today. Um, I'm going to try and see if there's any other news. I'm going to try and do this a little bit more often. Probably not every day, but I will try to do it as much as I can. So hopefully you guys like this. You like the format. I'm going to probably be doing little things here and there to change it up. But for today, this is kind of what we've got. We've had a lot of guys getting waived, especially up in Ottawa. Maybe that's a storyline for Ali Desh, especially with the super chat. Again, thank you so much, Ali Desh, for the 279 Canadian. Lassie Thompson and Jacob Bernard Docker both placed on waivers by the Ottawa Senators. Those are both former first-round picks of the Ottawa Senators, and to say that's shocked me is saying the least. I was not expecting that. These are two guys that were very highly coveted, highly known prospects that just kind of just fall off a cliff, which is really a shame. But I think they're gearing up for something here, whether it's a trade with the Flyers or they're going to be signing Shane Pinto, because they wouldn't be just putting these guys on waivers for no good reason. So expect some kind of movement. That's probably going to be the next video this week, is something along the lines of Lassie Thompson and Jacob Bernard Docker forced to be placed on waivers for the Senators to make some kind of move here. To re-sign Shane Pinto, to move, I would assume it's going to be one of those centers that's already there in Ottawa. But again, the fact they're moving a lot of players around does leave me wondering, with a lot more questions than answers with Ottawa. And I am really interested to see what they end up doing, because Matthew Joseph's contract is the one everybody's been looking at $2.95 for the next 3 seasons. That's a contract you probably would like to get off the books and will probably give you enough leverage or enough movement where you can re-sign Shane Pinto. Ali Desh, I should have traded him for like a 4th rounder over a year ago. Yeah, that's the problem. And that's the thing that's tough, because Lassie Thompson, 19th overall pick. I know Jacob Bernard Docker, he played at the University of North Dakota. He was supposed to be really solid as well. So this is a tough break for the Ottawa Senators in that sense. And this is, I guess give credit where it's due for Pierre Dorian, in the sense that he's not just keeping these guys because of, it looks bad on me. At this point, you just have to bite the bullet. It's a tough look, but so many GMs are afraid to either trade guys or just waive them because of, this makes me look bad if I waive him, or this makes me look bad if I trade him for a 4th round pick. Like I said, you would have probably rathered him done that sooner, but that's kind of where you're at. And Ali Desh and most Sens fans gave up on Lassie like a year and a half ago. Yeah, it's really a shame. Toe said Thompson is finished, and I never heard of that guy until the draft. Yeah, Lassie Thompson really moved up. I think he was projected to be like a 3rd or 4th round pick, and Lassie Thompson really flew up the radar. And the problem is, when guys fly up the radar like that close to the draft and really build up a ton of steam, sometimes that's a little overinflated, and I think that's kind of what happened there with Lassie Thompson. And yes, Lassie Thompson is a defenseman. And it's Thompson, Lassie Thompson. I think I keep saying that with a P by accident, but you guys know who he is. Another guy that you could look at, Kubalik making $2.5 million per year. That's a 1-year deal. That might be easier to move than Matthew Joseph. I've heard the Flyers have been looking at a prospect that the Senators have, and I'm trying to remember who the guy is. I think he's an unsigned prospect. But there's somebody that the Flyers apparently really want. Which that kind of sucks, because that means he's probably going to be a pretty good player. But that's kind of what they have to do here. Also, if you guys haven't watched, we did our power rankings the other day, our preseason power rankings. If you guys watched till the end of that one, basically what we ended up doing at the end of the stream is we had basically the announcement this coming Sunday, no live stream, but for the first week of the regular season, we will do our week 1 power rankings. I wanted to give enough time for the preseason rankings because now we've got this week and next week for that preseason power rankings to be good, and then we will have our regular weekly rankings. So I'm really excited for that. I like how I'm changing the format a little bit here, doing these live streams, because now that when I do these videos, you guys can talk to me. So I think that'll change things up, be a little bit different, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys enjoyed as much as I do. And Toe brings up a really good point. He said it sometimes takes longer to develop a defenseman. Hope they didn't give up on him too early. I kind of like the sense. Honestly, I could see that happening with one of those guys for sure, if not both of them. Jacob Bernard-Docker kind of caught me off guard, though. Like Lassie Thompson, I expected a little bit to see this happen, but Jacob Bernard-Docker, that one caught me off guard a little bit more. You know, I think what's interesting with this situation is the fact that they are so young. Like, that's kind of what concerns me here if I'm a Senators fan, because, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, Bernard-Docker is 23 years old. That is very young to kind of sit there and say, yeah, he's no good. So I'm not really sure what they're doing here. They do have some other prospects to go, but I don't know. I mean, you have guys like Jorian Donovan Sabrango, who I know a lot of people really like, Thomas Hamara. There are some players here to look at, Tyler Klevin, but again, did they give up too soon on some of these other guys? And I think the writing was on the wall a little bit when they brought in Jacob Chychrun, because if they were so confident that Jacob Bernard-Docker or Lassie Thompson would secure one of those top 4 defensive roles, they probably wouldn't have done what they did there. So, all right, so I think that's going to do it. Thank you so much, Ali Dash, for the super chat. Hopefully some more guys will start to come in as I do this more often. But thank you, Ali Dash. Thank you, Toe. Like I said, thank you, Ali Dash, for the super chat. You guys are awesome. At the end of the day, Trevor Zegras signs with the Anaheim Ducks, so all these rumors of him getting traded to the Flyers or whoever your pick is, they can all go to bed, at least for now, at least for the next 3 years. Guys, that's going to do it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be trying to do these more regularly during the day, so definitely stay tuned for these live streams. I think it's a lot of fun to talk with you guys. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time. Peace out.